Knock, knock. Who's there? Your nightmare.
The old Stonewick Manor stood at the edge of the town of Darlington, looming like a dark shadow against the Halloween night sky. For years, the townspeople avoided it, whispering tales of ghostly sightings and strange happenings in its darkened halls. No one knew who owned it, and no one dared to find out. But every Halloween, a strange light flickered from its upper window, a faint, eerie glow that seemed to beckon to anyone brave enough to come closer. This year, 3 friends, Mara, Jason, and Oliver, decided to break the town's silent pact and investigate the manor. They were young, restless, and more than a little skeptical of ghost stories.
It's just an old house.
Mara said as they stood at the rusted gate, watching the windows of the manor. Jason and Oliver agreed, though Jason couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a mistake. As they stepped through the gate, the temperature seemed to drop. The air became thick and cold, their breaths visible in the night air. They paused at the entrance, looking up at the towering doors, half hoping they'd stay closed. But as if expecting them, the door creaked open just a crack, inviting them inside. The grand hall was dusty, with peeling wallpaper and broken chandeliers that cast twisted shadows across the walls. Their flashlights revealed faded paintings with eyes that seemed to follow their every movement. A sudden chill ran down Mara's spine as she felt something brush past her shoulder. She whipped around, but there was nothing there.
Let's check out the second floor,
Oliver suggested, his voice barely a whisper. The wooden staircase groaned under their weight as they climbed, each creak louder than the last. The hallway above was dark and silent, stretching into an endless series of rooms that looked untouched. As they moved down the hallway, Jason noticed a door at the far end, slightly ajar. From within, a faint glow leaked out, casting an otherworldly light onto the floor. Against his better judgment, he pushed the door open, revealing a small study filled with dusty books and an old desk. Hanging on the desk sat an ancient candle holder, a single candle burning brightly, though there was no sign of anyone who might have lit it. They exchanged uneasy glances.
Who lit this?
Mara asked, her voice trembling. No one had an answer, and the silence was heavy, filled with the weight of the unknown. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. They tried the handle, but it wouldn't budge. They were trapped. Panic began to set in as they banged on the door, shouting for help, though they knew no one could hear them. That's when they heard the whispers. Faint, chilling voices seemed to seep through the walls, speaking in a language they didn't recognize. The shadows in the room seemed to come alive, twisting and stretching across the floor, creeping closer to where they stood. Now the candle on the desk flickered, and with each flicker, the shadows grew darker, more defined. Faces began to appear within them, pale, hollow-eyed faces with twisted smiles that seemed to mock their fear. Jason backed away, his flashlight shaking in his hand as he tried to shine it on the shadows, but it only made them grow. Then a voice spoke, clearer and closer than the others. It was a woman's voice, soft and almost sad.
Why did you come here?
It asked, echoing around the room. They tried to answer, but fear had stolen their voices. The candle flickered again, and in its glow, they saw her, a woman in a tattered black dress, her face pale and hollow, standing in the corner of the room. Her eyes were dark, empty, yet they seemed to bore into their souls, filling them with a cold, suffocating dread. She reached out a skeletal hand, pointing toward the desk. Slowly, as if under some strange compulsion, Mara approached it, her hand trembling as she picked up a yellowed piece of paper lying there. It was a letter scrawled in faded ink. It read,
To whoever enters this house, you have disturbed our rest. Leave now, share our fate.
The candle went out, plunging them into darkness. They fumbled for their flashlights, the beams cutting through the dark as they searched for any sign of the woman, but she had vanished. The door suddenly unlocked, swinging open with a loud creak. Without a second thought, they bolted down the hallway, racing down the stairs. But when they reached the grand hall, something was different. The walls seemed closer, the shadows deeper, and the front door locked. Desperation clawed at them as they tried the door, slamming their fists against it. From behind them, they heard footsteps, slow, deliberate echoing through the hall. They turned, flashlights shaking as they watched the shadows shift, taking shape until they saw her again, floating just above the floor.
You cannot leave.
She whispered, her voice filled with malice.
You are one of us now.
With each word, the room grew colder and the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. Jason's flashlight flickered and died, leaving them in near total darkness. Mara screamed as she felt icy fingers brush against her arm. Oliver tried to pull her back, but his hands passed through her as if she were made of smoke. In horror, he watched as she faded before his eyes, her face twisted in terror as she was pulled into the shadows. Jason and Oliver staggered back, their minds barely comprehending what they had just seen. They scrambled up the stairs, hoping to find another way out, but each door they tried led them back to the same room, the one with the flickering candle. They felt trapped in a nightmare that had no end, a dark, twisted maze that seemed to close in on them. Shadows surrounded them, whispering, taunting, reaching out with clawed fingers. Jason fell to his knees, unable to go any further. Oliver pulled him to his feet, and they made one last desperate attempt, running down the hallway, their eyes searching for any sign of escape. But as they rounded the corner, they froze. There, blocking their path, was the woman, her eyes empty, her mouth twisted in a smile. In a last act of courage, Jason threw his flashlight at her, but it passed through her as if she were made of mist. She laughed, a chilling, hollow sound that filled the hallway, echoing in their ears as darkness closed in around them. No one saw Jason and Oliver again. Weeks later, when the townsfolk dared to enter the manor, they found nothing but a single letter on the desk in the study with new handwriting. Whoever enters this house, you have disturbed our rest. Leave now or share our fate. A faint light flickers from the upper window of Stonewick Manor, as if waiting for the next unfortunate soul who dares to enter.